Let's bring in David Nixon, BYU TV analyst, good friend of the program, former NFL guy, and BYU linebacker standout. How's that for an introduction, David Nixon?
I like it.
Let's ask you the question. What's the biggest headline thus far in BYU football fall camp?
I think it's speed kills. I look out there, especially on the scrimmage on Saturday, and I just saw the receivers just blazing past that secondary. And I think BYU fans, are going to see an offense that, once again, kind of like you just mentioned, goes deep. And you're going to have receivers that can Taysom kind of throw the ball up to, and they can run underneath the ball and catch it and go for some yards. It's exciting. We haven't had this much speed in a long time.
Who are some of the fastest guys in your eyes based on what you saw Saturday?
Well, looking at Trey Dye, I had no idea. I mean, granted, he is from the Lone Star State. He's from Texas.
Of course, you dropped that in there.
So of course he's a great athlete, and he'll be able to contribute as a freshman.
Of course, he's a great athlete. I wanted to be there, a guy from Texas that's just some big old lineman like, oh, he's tremendous. He's a great athlete.
Yeah, he's always a great athlete. But no, I was really surprised that if you recall that touchdown from Stewart to Trey that got called back. I mean, he ran away from all the DBs, and there were some DBs that had some good angles on him that he still ran away from. So. And then, of course, Devon Blackman, you saw him get open and have some good catches, especially the one in the end zone. So I think it really will be a huge asset to where they can stretch the field, these fast receivers, which will then open up that middle for guys like Dev Mahina and the check downs to the running backs like Adam Hine, things like that will kind of open up that mid-range passing game if Taysom can kind of exploit the long-range passing game with these fast receivers.
David Nixon with us on BYU Sports Nation. We just talked to Nick Howell over the weekend about the mission acclimation period. He brought up Bronson Kafusi and said that it was kind of a slow going. You got to be very careful. Now guys like Harvey Longy and Troy Hines at the inside linebacker position come in. Take us back to what you went through, David, and that acclimation period back into full speed coming off of a mission. What is that like for these guys, and how much can we expect them to contribute?
Man, it's so tough. I mean, I came home from my mission in January, so I had a good 6-7 months until the season began to get acclimated. But you got these guys coming home just a month or two prior, and I can tell you that while their body might feel good now, it's pretty much guaranteed they'll start to break down soon. But I have to give credit to BYU's coaching staff. I think they've realized over the years that there's a better way to kind of implement and kind of reintroduce these return missionaries back in the program. I remember when I came home, they threw me right in the mix. I was running 40s and running gassers, things like that with everyone else as if I'd been around for years. And my body did give out that year. I ended up tearing my groin, and I had some hernia issues and things like that. And I think after that, the coaches kind of, along with Coach Omer and Justin McClure, realized, look, we've got to take a different approach to it. And I think it's been successful, but you look at Troy Hines and Harvey. You just hope that they can kind of slow things down because, unfortunately, your body, when you start to put on weight, like these guys will as the season progresses, put on weight and you keep getting these reps, it's kind of inevitable that your body will fail you unless you continue to really take care of it, which once again, I think the coaching staff is doing a good job with, but you just cross your fingers that their bodies can hold up.
Well, it's a major advantage, so I don't see what the problem's going to be this year.
Right.
Oh, wait, it's not.
Bunch of old men out there, competitive advantage.
David,
stop it.
As a former 32-year-old linebacker, I'm just kidding. Is it realistic to think that Longy and Hines could actually play and have an impact this year? And it sounds like Hines, there's more depth on the outside than inside. Inside's up for grabs right now with Stout and Pikula not actually playing.
Yeah, it really is. I was impressed with Hines on the scrimmage. I thought he had a good use of his hands. He had some good speed out the edge. Had that one sack. I think he can be a major contributor. Once again, and I tweet this out, if he stays healthy. And once again, you go back to the missionary kind of topic. You just hope that really their bodies, they take care of their bodies. You've got to be a pro. They've got to sit there and do cold pool, hot tub, things to get your body ready. You've got to stretch, especially as a return missionary. You've got to make sure you're stretched. Maybe go in 30 minutes before practice and stretch instead of sitting around your locker and maybe catching a quick nap or something. You really got to make sure you're getting your body warmed up. Maybe go out a few minutes early and do extra warm-up besides what they already do as a team. So this is stuff that, once again, the coaching staff is trying to educate these kids that you can't just run out there. You're not 16 anymore in high school. You can't just run out there and expect to be fine. You really got to take care of your body. And I think that's the name of the game with this BYU team this year. If everyone stays healthy, it could be a great year. But as we've seen, if a couple guys go down, it could be tough to replace them.
BYU TV football analyst David Nixon with us on BYU Sports Nation, played 4 seasons in the NFL. You have a great interest in what's going on at the linebacker position for obvious reasons, because that's where you played at BYU. But one of the bigger question marks is who will start at the inside position. Zach Stout has been dubbed one of the guys, but he's banged up. Manoa Pakula has yet to play for various reasons. Who is going to start against Connecticut at the inside linebacker position for BYU?
I think there's a lot of question marks, obviously, right now with, like what you just mentioned, a couple guys being held out. You got to remember this is still week 2 of camp. They've still got another 2.5 weeks till opening day. So the panic button shouldn't be pressing necessarily right now. I think those guys, Manoa's got some good reps in last year. Zach, obviously, has been around the program. But you look at the scrimmage, and there are some new names out there playing ball, but this is the perfect time for those guys to get those reps. So I was impressed with Austin Heater. I'm not sure how you pronounce the last name. Heater. I was impressed with him. And then once again, I think when Zach and Manoa come back, I think that middle linebacker spot will be kind of nailed down. But also Jeremiah Luther, I was impressed with him. I thought he was all over the field making plays, and he's one of those guys that can kind of move around from outside to inside, and kind of like a Spencer Hadley, where he can kind of be used all over the linebacker core. But, I thought those two guys really stood out to me, and then, of course, Hines on the outside. So, you've got the starters, Fua, you've got Kafusi, and then once again Manoa. We'll see what happens with the other position with Zach or whoever it may be. But I think, come UConn, you'll have those 4 solid linebackers out there. But once again, these weeks leading up to it, it's all about creating that depth and making sure that if one guy does go down for any particular reason, there's another guy that can step right in and fill in that hole.
We've talked about some questions we have. What's the surest thing in your mind about BYU football's team right now?
That's a good question. The surest thing, I think what you're going to see, and I saw from the scrimmage, I think it's just that hustle that Bronco Mendenhall instills in his team. And you saw guys running all over the field. You saw pursuits from the defense. Offensively, you saw the offensive line really getting after that D-line. You finally kind of saw that nasty streak coming back in that offensive line, which has kind of been absent for the last few years. I think that's with the help with obviously Coach Tujay, but also Coach Anai. I remember when he was our offensive coordinator when I was there in 06, 07, 08, and he's a coach that we get on to you, definitely, especially the O-line, because he's a former O-lineman, and he had those nasty O-linemen, Travis Bright, Dallas Reynolds, those guys will get after you. And I think you're finally starting to see that in this O-line. They're starting to kind of get that swagger as offensive line where they've got each other's backs, they've got their quarterbacks back. They're going to do anything to do to protect them and be a unit. So I think you're just going to see that nastiness return and that confidence. And that's, you saw guys out there making plays. Loved Adam Hine. I thought he had a fantastic scrimmage. Saw him hurdling guys, catching passes on the sideline. I think he's going to be a huge asset to, give Jamal some rest when the time arises and kind of be that other speed back that you always need.
David Nixon with us on BYU Sports Nation. Let's talk about the obvious headline from Saturday, and that is that wide receiver Nick Kurtz is out with a stress fracture, we assume, for 6 to 8 weeks. We're waiting on details when he meets with a foot specialist today to get the nitty-gritty on that. But what kind of a hole does Nick Kurtz leave, given that he hasn't played a game for BYU yet?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, he has yet to be tested truly on the field as it comes to any type of game at the D1 level. But he had been progressing very well throughout camp, and I think Taysom was obviously becoming more comfortable with him. So I think it is a loss, but you saw the other guys step up. Go back to Devon Blackman and Trey Dye, but then also you had Mitchell Juergens that had some great catches. So you look at that scrimmage, and there were some nice catches, but you got to remember all the guys that had already been held out. Jordan Leslie, to name one in particular. You had Mitch Matthews that sat out. So there were some key components that weren't on the field, yet the offense still was able to move the ball. So that's got to give Cougar fans a little bit of confidence that this offense, even though you might be missing a key guy like Kurtz that might be out for, is going to be out for a few weeks, there's guys that are already stepping up and kind of seizing the opportunity. And that's what I saw Saturday is those guys realized, look, now's my time to shine, and they took advantage of it.
David, Jordan Leslie was held out of the scrimmage. That told me a lot about what the BYU football coaching staff thinks of him. Trey Dye, Devon Blackman, other newcomers, they played. Jordan Leslie did not. What kind of message do you think that sent?
I'm with you. It's a huge message. Coach Mendenhall doesn't hold out anybody that hasn't proved themselves yet. So I do think that Jordan's come in. He's acted like he's been here for a few years. He's acted like a veteran, and had been a good example. Picked up the offense well from what I've heard. I agree. I think that was a big message saying, look, you progressed quite well. Let's let some of these younger guys. You're going to be playing on Saturdays. Let some of these younger guys step up and see what they can do, prove to us. But you got to remember, camp is long, and Coach Minhall alluded to this last week. He wishes it was almost a week shorter than it is.
I agree.
Or maybe even 2. And it's a long camp. So, once again, everyone's kind of looking at this last scrimmage on Saturday and hitting the panic button, saying, man, so-and-so wasn't playing. What's going to happen here? Man, we still got a few more weeks to have all this sorted out. If we were T-minus a week away from UConn, I'd probably be a little stressed, wonder who's going to be in there. But I think Coach Minhall and his coaching staff know who the starting 11 on each side are going to be, and they're kind of helping to save those guys because, once again, camp is long. They still got a long ways to go. If they can preserve them, make sure nobody else gets injured, then I think they'll be fine. But yeah, good sign about Leslie. I think he's going to be a huge contributor this year.
David, we're going to talk to offensive coordinator Robert and I 2-on-1. We'll at least play that interview that we had on Saturday. He's an interesting character and has a unique sense of humor. When you played here, what kind of relationship did you have with Coach and I?
Man, I had a great relationship with Coach and I, and I still do to this day. When we see each other, we laugh and we have a great time.
David, how are you?
How's it going, David? Yeah, he's honestly a stud. I love and I. Whenever they made a decision to bring him back last year, I was ecstatic. I think he's a great coach. Obviously a great mind, offensive mind. I think he only gained more knowledge when he went down there to Arizona and was with Rich Rodriguez. So I think he's exactly what BYU needs. He's got the BYU tradition instilled in him. Obviously a former player, and I'm a huge fan of Anai, and I think he continues to kind of craft his offense around his athletes, and I think that's why you've seen so far this camp of Taysom going deep. I mean, he realizes he's got some speed, and he's going to use that as to the best of the abilities of those guys, and he's going to really stretch these defenses. And I'm excited to kind of see what's rolled out from here. I alluded to it earlier, in the summer, that I think you're going to see kind of a new offense from Anaya. You're obviously going to see some of the old stuff, but
a new offense.
Well, new offense, I mean, in the fact that you're going to see new faces that are once again stretching that defense, guys going deep, to be able to utilize some of the speed. So last year we saw a lot of mid-range stuff, a lot of digs across the middle, things like that. But I think you're going to see, more deep routes, Hail Marys, things like that.
David, you have 18 days to get yourself game face ready for countdown to kickoff. Are you game for this?
I'm 100% in. I'm ready. I'm ready to have the season go. I couldn't be more excited. I'm super optimistic about this season. I think if these guys all come together as a unit, which it looks like they are, if everyone can stay healthy, man, I think especially with the schedule and the home games, things like that we've got set up, I think it could be a special season, no doubt.
Stretch your vocabulary muscles, my friend, because we're right around the corner.
Get your Y-Factor pick ready.
I like it. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, David.